Greetings from the set of Metro and More at Metropolitan Community College, serving more than 50,000 students with over 120 programs at our 8 locations in the daytime, evening, weekends, or online.
Hi everybody, I'm your host Kent Pavelka. Welcome again to Metro and more of what you need to know about Metropolitan Community College. And it is time for our quarterly Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce update for you. We're reviewing quarter number 1 for 2018 with the President and CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce, David Brown. Great to see you again, my friend.
It's good to see you. Another 3 months have flown by, and here we are talking about the first quarter of 18. And as always, before specifics, maybe just in general, your analysis of how things went and are going economically and business-wise in Omaha. Is it what you hoped for?
It absolutely is. I mean, aside from the weather, which has been this prolonged winter that none of us can seem to get away from, I think everything has been going really well. I mean, the kinds of commitments that we're seeing, the expansion of the market, the redevelopment projects that we can see either under construction or on the drawing boards. I think the news has been good all the way around, so it's been a really good way to start the year.
Your job is about keeping a lot of balls in the air, and I always ask you when we chat about what wound up being the major focus of the quarter. Was there any one thing this year?
You know, for us, it's a little bit unique because we're doing our next economic development campaign. So Prosper 2.0 is our 5-year strategy and fundraising campaign. And so that means I've spent most of this first quarter raising money, or the legislature, which has been difficult this year, to put it nicely. And so it's been a lot of time engaging there. And then we've been trying to fill the economic development vice president spot. So in addition to filling in on that job when we didn't have a VP, we've been going through the process of interviewing and trying to get somebody on board. So, I mean, stuff that I would not normally end up talking about here are things that have kind of dominated my calendar, and in some ways the Chamber's calendar for the last quarter.
Still, I'm just curious, what were the major impediments with the legislative session?
Well, I think the big question was about budget, number one. So they knew they had to go in and reduce the budget because forecasts for growth were going to be less than what they had thought when they built the budget a year ago. So they had to find $100 million or so, some big number. And then there was a huge debate about tax reform, and was there going to be any kind of property tax relief, particularly coming from the agricultural community looking for significant reductions in property taxes. And I'll bet we saw 50 different scenarios of different potential tax bills, some of which were solely focused on property taxes, mostly for the agricultural community. Some of them had corporate tax cuts in them. Some of them had workforce development funds in them for training dollars. Some did not. And so we were trying to figure out how we could come to a balance of one that supported the business community, that was generating a lot of the taxes that were going to ultimately be the way to pay for property tax relief. While at the same time, I think the ag interests were pushing really hard to get more and more property tax relief. And in the end, I think there was not enough money to do all the property tax relief that I think the agricultural sector wanted. They wanted about $1 billion in property tax relief, which meant that money had to come from somewhere. And in a year with tight budgets, number one, it was going to be difficult to do. And there were just so many schools of thought down there that you really couldn't come to a consensus on any single bill. So it was just frustrating.
Give me a primer on this. My understanding is that property tax in the state of Nebraska is a local thing. So when we talk about property tax relief at the state level, how does that work?
Well, you're absolutely right, Kent. And it's actually the fundamental disagreement that I think the business community around the state has had with this whole discussion about property tax relief at the state level, is that property taxes are levied and collected and spent at the local level.
Right.
And so the state has nothing to do with it other than legislatively they set the cap on how much taxes can increase on an annual basis, or what your levy cap is going to be. But those things have been set for a long time. So the whole notion that you're going to take revenue from the state budget and create some kind of a property tax credit basically just takes money out of operations and puts it into the credit fund. So it is a swap. And so,
In other words, lower your state taxes in an effort to ease the burden of the property tax at the local level.
Well, in essence, though, they're not lowering our state taxes. So let's just say that we generate $1 billion a year for taxes for the state. It's actually a $4 billion budget. Okay.
Right.
None of that's property taxes.
Right.
And so for every time we take money out of the general fund to reduce property taxes by you getting a little card in the mail that says, we are able to give you a property tax credit this year out of state revenues of $50 or $60, whatever that might be. Every time you do that, that's money that goes away from something else those tax dollars could be used for.
Right, right.
And so we've said, let's lower the income tax rate. Let's potentially lower the sales tax rate. And that gives us then more revenue coming in because business is growing faster, people are investing money faster, and that'll generate more revenue for the state, and that'll ultimately then give everybody what they need. That doesn't impact local property taxes. I mean, we always said, you want to impact local property taxes, talk to your school boards, talk to your city councils, talk to your county commissioners. That's where the spending is, that's where the levy is, that's where you can control property taxes. So we just think there's a mismatch anyway. And so something else has to give. And so that's where the whole debate was this year is property tax relief from the state level the way to spend those kinds of dollars? Or is there some alternative reform package that we should be putting in place?
Right. Maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe next year. There's always next year.
Big buzz in the first quarter, a couple different things. Just touch on the Mutual of Omaha plan, or I guess it's a plan at this point, but not a definite plan.
Yeah, so Mutual of Omaha has indicated that they have talked to their board about pursuing a new headquarters building, which would be fabulous. This would be the second Fortune 500 company in Omaha to announce a new headquarters building in the last 6 months. So Kiewit, of course, has announced that they're going to build a new headquarters next to their training facility in North Downtown. And now this would be Mutual basically doing the same thing. Plus they've moved some of the Mutual of Omaha bank headquarters down to the Landmark building downtown too. So lots of commitment to downtown and midtown we're seeing from our large companies.
What are you talking about in terms of a timeline here?
You know, I imagine they still have to go through design. I think they're still trying to figure out how big it has to be, how much building they can put on that piece of property near them, if that's the place they're going to put the building. They're still preliminary, but I'd say sometime this year they'll make a decision about when the construction can start and how big this thing is going to be. So they're going through the design phase now.
And then, of course, the event that the public that was most visible was the NCAA Regional, smashing success.
Great success. I mean, you couldn't ask for better basketball. First off, I mean, they have the teams that we had here, and then have the competitiveness of those games was remarkable. And you know, we put on a great show. I mean, when you think about it, Omaha knows how to do big amateur sporting events.
Absolutely.
And boy, we do it right. And so when the media is here, they get treated right, and they like the facilities that they have to use. CenturyLink Center is a top-notch facility for these kind of events. Got great hotels that are right nearby. I mean, we just show really, really well for this stuff. So everyone, I think, was happy with the outcome.
And the television coverage was really, really good in terms
was.
of the PR. So when are we going to get another one? And what about the chance of getting a Big Ten tournament here? I think Lee Barfnick and Dirk Chatelain floated that out there. You know, if we can host an NCAA regional, we can certainly do that.
Absolutely. So you think about, we already have baseball, right? So
Yeah.
we either have Big Ten or Big East baseball conference championships here. You know, there's no reason why we couldn't host a Big Ten basketball championship here. Or for that matter, I don't think we'll ever get out of Madison Square Garden for the Big East, but you know, stranger things have happened. So I think the good news is, between the Convention Bureau and the CenturyLink Center and the Omaha Sports Commission, everything is on the table. And we're going after everything you can think of to continue bringing more unique sporting events to Omaha.
Let's go through the numbers.
Sure.
For the first quarter of 2018. 8 projects we're talking about, right?
Yeah, which is kind of normal. I mean, by the first quarter, most of our commitments probably come in spring and summer. So getting 8 projects out of a goal of 60 for the year is pretty good. The funny part is that the capital investment around those 8 projects is more than $1.2 billion.
That's a B.
That's a B, yeah. And our goal for the year is 600 million. And so we've doubled the goal already. And the reason for that, of course, is that Facebook announced phase 2 of their big data center down in Sarpy County. And that's a year early than what we expected. And so that's another $1 billion. So you start thinking about what that investment is going to be down there. It's just humongous. And, they've already said that they might, they were always going to do probably 3 phases there. And so we're doing really well on the capital investment side already. Jobs so far, we've had 558 jobs, so it's a good start towards the 2,500 jobs that we have committed to each year for the goal. So if all of this continues to go at this pace, and our backlog continues to grow the way, and we land, and all the projects we typically would land out of that backlog, this could be another really big year for us. And if you think about it over a 15-year cycle, we were talking about this earlier, if the numbers kind of roll in the way we hope they will, we'll be able to say that we hit $10 billion in capital investment in the last 15 years and about 40,000 jobs and about 1,000 projects. This is a big year to kind of wrap up that 15 years as we move into the next phase of our economic development strategy.
And the dynamics are there to keep this momentum going, you think?
I think so, although I think that we've changed our approach strategically, doing this Omaha 2040 process last year to kind of think about what do we really want Omaha to look like in 2040, what lessons did we learn about the demographics of what Omaha will look like then, you can already see it in the numbers, and what do we have to do to make sure that Omaha is able to accommodate the growth rate that we need to have to keep building this great community. So I think that the table is definitely set. The commitment is definitely there. We know what the issues are that we have to deal with, and now we have a strategy in place to start dealing with them. So I think as long as we keep our eye on the ball, Omaha should have a better next decade than the last decade was.
I want to talk about a couple of accomplishments here
Yeah.
in the first quarter of the 2018. Career Rocket.
Yeah.
Tell us about Career Rocket.
This is one of those interesting programs that our team dreamed up a couple years ago and said we want to give more career experiences to middle schoolers and high schoolers with the notion that if they know more about the kind of career they might be getting educated for, then they realize the kind of careers that are here in Omaha and this region, that maybe they will stay here and go to school and stay here and work, right? So this is getting started early on exposing kids to different careers. Last year we did 12,000 kids came from schools around this area, middle schoolers and high schoolers, and visited businesses or businesses visited them in the school to talk about certain careers within those businesses. So everything from veterinarians to firemen, from doctors to lawyers, from accountants to you name it. Virtually every career a kid might think they might be interested in, we were able to find businesses that said, come on out and see it. This year, we had a goal of 15,000 students, and we did 22,000. So the first or second week in February, 22,000 unique student experiences contributed by 20 different school districts and more than 140 organizations, businesses for the most part, that invited those kids in to learn more about those businesses. We think that's an important way for us to start trying to convince our talent to stay here more aggressively than they have been. So we need to make this place stickier, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So our own talent level is being developed and it's staying here in higher numbers, which will actually make our population grow faster because the net migration number, then people leaving and people coming, we end up getting on the positive side of that. So we have to keep more of our people here, and that's a longer term way or midterm way to get kids exposed to potential careers and then show them how they can get jobs here in Omaha.
Sure. These are the things that we do here. What are you interested in
Right.
in that pool of things that we do here?
Right.
And then education is tailored toward that. It's kind of a European model from
It is a
long time
bit.
ago.
It is, and I think Europe has done a great job with kind of apprenticeship over time, and they have a much more directive approach where basically they'll say, Kent, I think you ought to be a welder, and that's what you get to do for the rest of your life. We're not quite that directive. But you know what, if we expose kids to, if they start when they're, say, in middle school, by the time they get through their senior year in high school, they'll have 5 or 6 different careers that they would have experienced. and they'll find something in there that says, I think I might want to do that for a living. And so now what do I have to do at Metro to get that kind of skill? Or what do I have to do at UNO or at Creighton or at Bellevue to make sure I get the education I need? And then it's our job to make sure the employers then are plugged into those kids so that they can see a job at the end of the line. And that's an important program for us moving forward.
Another thing that happened in the first quarter of 18, named the #1 region, Greater Omaha area.
Yeah,
by Site Selection.
Site Selection Magazine.
Yeah.
So which the Site Selection Magazine is kind of the Bible for economic development, and every year they rank economic development organizations by within certain population sectors, and then they also rank states. So they basically say number of projects per capita, and then they have a minimum project size that they allow. So Omaha has won the #1 place in that list 3 out of the last 4 years. And the year before that, so it's actually 4 out of the last 5 years, we've actually been picked as the mid-sized community for the best economic development successes in the country. So that's a community 200,000 to 1 million people. And that's pretty significant that we keep winning that thing. Nebraska's won it 2 years in a row and 3 out of the last 4 years. So I think that has something to do with the fact that Omaha has won 3 of the last 4 years. I mean, Nebraska doesn't win it if they don't get the projects that we do.
Absolutely.
So this sort of goes hand in hand, but we're pretty proud of that we know how to do this business. We do a volume that is pretty amazing, and that we get recognized for it.
And back to kindling young talent, the YP Summit in March 1st, right?
Every year, this is the 10th year we've done that now. It's crazy it's been that long. 1,500 young professionals show up, learn how to be better leaders, learn how to engage in the community, learn how to enhance their careers, do some personal enhancements too of their skill sets. Just a great program.
David, you alluded to this, the search for the new Vice President for Economic Development.
Yep.
This is a new position, correct? No, it's not. Okay.
So Randy Thalen, who was our Senior Vice President for Economic Development for the past 4 years, took a new job in Denver to run the economic development arm of Downtown Denver Incorporated. That was last fall. So we started hunting then. We hired a national search firm to find us just the perfect candidate that can help us move our strategy forward. And just this week we announced that we had hired a woman named Dee Baird, PhD from Iowa State, has been in the economic development field, the chamber field, actually worked for Kirkland Community College for several years doing workforce development and training and the development of partnerships with the business community. And she did some entrepreneurship work as well along the way. So the skill set fits our Prosper 2.0 strategy really, really well. She's an experienced and talented leader, and we're really excited about having her on board. So she'll start here in early May.
And her name again?
Dee Baird.
D-E-E?
Yep.
Very good. A couple things on the list here to talk about. The Startup Collaborative.
Yep. So as you know, I think we've talked about this before, that we took an existing incubator building, which is a place where startups start up. Hence the term incubator, turn something small into something larger. And the Startup Accelerator, which is a project that we take startups and you run them through a process where they refine their business plan and ultimately then can present a la kind of a Shark Tank kind of process, if you will, to investors. And then the work that we were doing, primarily taking corporations and working with them to find how they can be entrepreneurial, and then finding even some startups who can help them solve problems. We took all three of those things together, formed the Startup Collaborative. It is housed at the chamber, and every year, every quarter, every month, they're doing events that would bring people to events that would get them rub elbows with inventors or rub elbows with investors or with other would-be entrepreneurs. And so we did an all-rise rally again, which is a great way for kind of entrepreneurs to come in and talk about what they've done and kind of brag on themselves about how much money that they are able to raise or how many customers that they've got. And so that's just one of many different things that we're doing to build. We have a goal in our next Prosper 2.0 strategy of 250 tech startups in 5 years. So that would run through this the Startup Collaborative process to make that happen.
Let's talk a little bit more about Facebook. You
Yeah.
talked about the big number. I think the interesting thing is how this benefits people here in the metropolitan
Yeah.
area.
So whenever we have a big project like this, we want to make sure that there's a benefit to the local economy, not just with the finished product, where we know they're going to buy power here, we know they're going to employ local people, we know they're going to be buying goods and services and that kind of stuff here.
But as it's built.
But as it's built, we want to have as many local contractors, subcontractors here as well. And so 2/3 of the investment that has been announced already is going to local companies. Local trade partners, the electricians and the plumbers and the concrete contractors and the steel workers, et cetera, et cetera. So, 2/3 of a couple of $1 billion is a lot of money that's going to be flowing into this market. 80% of the people that are working on the site now building this facility are from Nebraska, and so, or Iowa, right nearby. And so we know that local residents are getting a huge benefit from it. And we think there's about 1,000 people right now on the site. So that means there's 800 Nebraskans, if you will, working on this site, getting this thing built. So lots of big impacts around here.
It's an interesting part of the equation. You think about North Dakota and all the people they've had to bring in over the years for the oil business up there. You say 80%? So the balance of 20% coming from outside the marketplace or outside the state, is that because we don't have the workers or the expertise?
It's going to be in the trades for the most part. So it has been the case for the past few years that that electricians have come in from all over the Midwest to work on what was then the Google facility and then now the Facebook facility. And we're seeing the same thing with some of the key trades, maybe on steel workers or pipe fitters. I mean, there just aren't enough of them to kind of keep pace with everything that's going on here, which I guess it's a nice problem to have. Although our goal over the next several years, and with Metro's new facility here, is to make sure we're training enough people in the construction trade so that folks can get that benefit here rather than having to ship people in from the outside.
Well, it's only 20%, and there's some economic benefit of that too.
If you think about it, if of the 1,000 people that are currently on site, that means 200 of them are coming from the outside. That's 200 local Omahans or Council Bluffians or Nebraskans or Iowans that could be getting that pay instead of folks coming here from Minnesota or Wisconsin or the Dakotas or wherever that might be. So,
although these people are staying in motels and eating,
they're doing
spending
that.
money.
They're doing that. So there's no doubt there's a benefit from it. But you always want to have your locals get the jobs if you can help it.
Okay, by the time we put this on air and on YouTube, you will have already made the big move to the new headquarters.
Yeah, next week we're moving, which is far more disruptive than I ever thought it was going to be. I mean, we've been packing boxes for weeks now, and emptying files of old documents and just getting cleaned out so we can move into the new space.
How much of that gets in the way of the agenda?
Well, you would like to think that it doesn't, but that'd be a fool's mission to think that it doesn't.
Yeah.
Clearly, if you're asking people to do something this huge, this large, in addition to what they would normally be doing in their job, it's going to be a distraction. But nonetheless, it'll be a positive distraction when we move. And then we got to get ourselves settled in the new digs. But the new office looks terrific. Every day I go over there and there's another bell, another whistle, more furniture, more artwork, things that just really dress the place up and make it look like a real home for us. So next week, it will be closed, at least our physical plant will be closed as we move over to the new space.
For folks who will be doing some business at the new location, how's parking compared to the old place?
Actually, just like we now have a parking garage right next door and parking right in front of our building, we will have parking right in front of our building, about the same numbers that we had in front of meters, only though there won't be any meters in the circular drive in front of our new building. And there's a parking lot, a surface parking lot right across the street. Basically the same distance from our building as the parking garage is right now. So parking will be easy.
So one thing we want to put up is your new address.
Yeah, 808 Conagra Drive.
Yeah, in case you don't know what we're talking about here, you're moving from, what's the address now?
1301 Harney.
Yeah, to an area of the old Conagra campus.
Yeah, so if you, the only way to get it, well, there's a lot of ways to come into the Conagra campus actually too, but if you come in the front door, if you will, which is that flagged lined boulevard off of 10th Street, and get to the stop sign and turn right, and we're the next building on the left. So it's easy to get there. Parking's on the right-hand side, and you got a picture up on the screen, I think, of the Chamber Building, as this building is called now. So you can't hardly miss it, that's where we're going to be. Come in the front door, and you'll be directed upstairs to the 4th floor, where we'll be taking that whole floor.
How long will this, in perpetuity, is it the ConAgra campus now, or?
I mean, for our location, you
No,
mean?
I mean, is it going to be, is the ConAgra campus going to be the ConAgra campus?
Yeah, because they still have 1,200 people on that campus.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 5 buildings on the campus, and 3 of them now are filled with ConAgra employees and facilities and their test kitchens and their research kitchens, all that stuff. So, yeah, it will be the ConAgra campus. Now, their redevelopment that they're going to do on the project, I don't know if that gets a secondary name to the campus when the redevelopment project is done, but as far as we're concerned, it'll always be ConAgra Drive, and it's going to be the home of ConAgra here in Omaha.
June 5th, big date.
Big party.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's both a day we're going to have an open house at our new building, so the members can come and do a tour and just kind of see what the new digs look like. Although our members are welcome to come anytime after we get started and just come out and drop in and see us if they want to. But we're going to have a specific event on the morning of June 5th. And the other reason we're doing it on June 5th is it also is our actual 125th birthday.
Wow.
So we started in 1893 as the Commercial Club in Omaha. And so we're going to have a big birthday party as well as an open house for the members that come in and enjoy themselves.
Have you dug into the history of the chamber from back in the
Yeah, that's the other thing that we've been finding is, we have not had sort of a traditional archive where we put all of our historic documents. And so as we've been emptying files, we keep
Find
finding
stuff,
more
yeah.
historic stuff that we kind of throw in the history pile.
Yeah.
It's fascinating what the issues were. Interesting. Transportation, population growth, jobs. I mean, stuff
Imagine that.
very similar, different responses to it. But there's great pictures of folks that took a train trip, say, down to Miami and took a boat to Cuba for a trade operation,
Wow.
long before the 60s. I mean, just, the old bowler hat, and I mean,
You
just,
bet.
just all kinds of really cool stuff.
You guys ought to dress like that on the 5th.
Yeah.
I can see you in a bowler
Yeah,
hat.
I'll tell you, some really fun stuff we're finding. And we're finding photographs from way, way back. And so we're donating some of those to the Durham
Good.
for their photo archives. And there's at the library, they've got actually kind of a chamber archive section, so we're donating some of our documents there. And if we see gaps of people asking questions, we know where to go and get those questions answered. So we have a list, of course, of all of our former chairmen of the board from back to 1893. And there's some, great names.
Some family names that we recognize.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you just go down kind of who's been on the Hall of Fame, and probably 90% of them have been chairman of the board at some time or another. Now we're going back and seeing how many of my predecessors were here and
Yeah.
how long they lasted. And that's not as easy as the other list was. It's
Where's
just
your tenure rank?
second so far.
Wow.
So if I survive here another
You'll be number one.
few years, I'll be number one.
Good,
So
good.
that's a nice goal to have.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it
pleasure.
very much. And thank you for being with us again on Metro and More. Our goal is to better acquaint you with the mission, leadership, and the reach of the college. I'm Kent Pavelka for Metropolitan Community College.
If you have comments or questions about the program, please email us at metrovision@mccneb.edu. Thanks for watching.
This has been a MetroVision production produced by Metropolitan Community College.